real symbol of our ability to sit down and have healthy dialogue even when we disagree. The iconic UN sits near the East River, remains a symbol of not only peace, but a symbol of hope. And I'm proud to be the mayor of the city that would house this important conversation, something that we call UNGA, the United Nations General Assembly. New York City is a global city, and events that happen in one part of the globe will impact all of us. And we cannot solve issues like climate change, migrant crisis, poverty, inequities, war, and epidemics alone. We need each other, and we see that every day. We have collective responsibility to act and work together to combat the issues of our time. And next week, as global leaders, diplomats, civil society representatives, press, and advocates will come together to discuss these issues, we have an obligation to ensure they're able to do it in a safe manner. And we will accomplish that task. The brave men and women of the NYPD, FDNY, and our federal partners will come together and ensure the safety of the city. We're going to coordinate with the Department of Transportation, Department of Sanitation, Department of Parks and Recreation, New York City Emergency Management, and working around the clock to ensure the safety and coordination of our visitors, as well as everyday New Yorkers. We have also here, we must thank Commissioner Sada Kamara, who's here with us today, the Mayor's Office of International Affairs, for her coordination in dealing with the sensitivities of those who are arriving here in the city. And our New York City Police Department Intelligence Division and Executive Protection will play a crucial role in this coordination. We want to thank the United Nations staff and their security personnel for joining us in coordinating. But we cannot do this alone, as we indicated. The coordination with our federal security partners, including U.S. Secret Service, Diplomatic Security Service, and Homeland Security investigations. These partners and our coordination will ensure a safe UN General Assembly. The UN Security and Safety Service will be crucial to this operation, and our intelligence division with Commissioner Rebecca Weiner will ensure that we have a clear line of communication at all times. And at this time, there are currently no known specific or credible threats against the United Nations. But our posture is elevated out of an abundance of caution, given the global environment. We will have thousands of officers, canines deployed, and we will be protecting New Yorkers and visitors underground in our subways, as well as on our streets surrounding the United Nations. And from the air, we'll be using our drones and helicopters, and on our waterways with our harbor and counterterrorism units. Because as always, we remain vigilant, and we're telling New Yorkers security is a shared responsibility. So see something, say something, most importantly, do something, notify the authorities. There will also be security measures that you may not see, and pedestrians and vehicular closures will be in effect on and off throughout the weekend and into next week. So if you're getting around the city, it's always better to take public transportation. Security is always responsibility of all of us, and we will coordinate together. Safeguarding events is something that NYPD does better than any police department in the nation, and the United Nations General Assembly would be no different. And as we welcome 200 world leaders to our city over the next few weeks, we're going to recommit to working together and standing behind the principles that form this great body. The principles of human rights, justice, peace, dignity, and humanity. And as one great New Yorker, Eleanor Roosevelt, once stated, it isn't enough to talk about peace. One must believe in it, and it isn't enough to believe in it. One must work towards it. And so as the 80th session of the United Nations begins, let's continue to work towards peace and hope. I want to turn it over to the Police Commissioner of the City of New York, Commissioner Tisch.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, and thank you all for being here. Beginning September 23rd, New York City will once again host the high-level general debate for the 80th United Nations General Assembly. Over the course of the week, representatives from more than 200 countries will gather here to address urgent global challenges at a time when many regions are experiencing deep conflict and instability. Despite those tensions overseas, at this time, as the mayor said, there are no known specific credible threats to this year's General Assembly. But that fact does not change our posture. The NYPD remains fully prepared with a layered security plan designed to meet the need. The high-level week begins with a surge of arrivals on Sunday, September 21st, and will involve hundreds of motorcades throughout the week. NYPD officers supporting these motorcades are fully briefed on their respective countries, including security concerns and any unique cultural or diplomatic considerations. Beyond the UN headquarters itself, other meetings and special events across the city will require resources and protection. Thousands of NYPD officers will secure routes, fortify protection for the President of the United States, support security at hotels where heads of state will be staying, and ensure the safe. All right, and ensure the safe movement of delegations citywide. The resources that we are deploying are extensive and go beyond just a uniformed presence. Our specialized units will be out in full force all week, including harbor units on the rivers, aviation assets, overhead heavy weapons teams, and counterterrorism officers on the street. And our TARU drone team will be providing real-time situational awareness. Additionally, the temporary flight restriction will be in effect from September 21st through September 27th with a 2 nautical mile radius of the UN. Flying drones inside this restricted airspace is strictly prohibited. The NYPD will be working closely with our federal partners to detect and swiftly mitigate any unauthorized flights. This is one of the largest and most complex security operations anywhere. Our intelligence division has worked in lockstep with the U.S. Secret Service, the State Department's Diplomatic Security Service, the FBI, and international partners to ensure that world leaders and millions of New Yorkers are prepared and protected. And of course, we rely on the public as part of that mission. If you see something, say something. Call 888-NYC-SAFE to report anything suspicious. We also protect everyone's First Amendment right to protest. Peaceful demonstration is a vital part of our democracy, but we will not tolerate anything that causes disorder, that disrupts daily life, or that threatens the security of this event. Here's what the public needs to know about traffic impacts. First Avenue will be closed from 42nd Street to 48th Street, and 44th Street through 48th Street will be closed from 1st Avenue to 2nd Avenue daily for the duration of the assembly. Passenger vehicles and bicycles may use the 1st Avenue tunnel to travel north through the area. However, it's important to note that there will be rolling and intermittent closures citywide as delegations move between venues, including parts of the FDR Drive. We strongly urge everyone to use mass transit and allow extra time for travel throughout the week. Even with thousands of officers devoted to UNGA security, our work across the city does not stop. Our fall violence reduction zones and other precision policing initiatives continue without interruption, ensuring that our focus on gun violence and neighborhood safety remain constant. Through comprehensive planning, deep federal and international partnerships, and the dedication of NYPD officers citywide, New York will remain safe, welcoming, and in motion through this global event. And now I would like to turn it over to the special agent in charge of the Secret Service's New York field office, Matt McCool.
Thank you, Commissioner Tisch. Good morning, everyone. I am Matt McCool, Special Agent in charge of the U.S. Secret Service New York Field Office. The eyes of the world will be on New York City next week as the 80th United Nations General Assembly kicks into high gear. Designated a National Special Security Event, or NSSE, this is the largest gathering of global leaders on the planet. There will be more than 150 world leaders and their spouses converging on Manhattan. That is 75% of all United Nations members. The Secret Service, along with our federal, state, and local partners, have been deploying the Comprehensive Security Plan for many months. Have been developing the Comprehensive Security Plan for many months. This is a recurring NSSE, as authorized by the Secretary of Homeland Security, which allows for a whole-of-government approach to providing the highest levels of security. While the U.S. Secret Service is the lead agency responsible for the coordination and implementation of the overall security plan, this is a total team effort. I cannot overstate this. Our success in securing the UN General Assembly relies heavily on a broad spectrum of partners. First and foremost, the NYPD stands alone as our essential partner in this important work. They provide an unprecedented number of officers, assets, and expertise. The Secret Service thanks Commissioner Tisch and her incredible team for the dedication and support. We also work closely with so many other local partners, including the Port Authority Police Department, the New York City Office of Emergency Management, and the FDNY. I'd also like to thank and recognize some of our many federal partners who also play a critical role in this effort, including the Diplomatic Security Service and SAC Brian Wood, DHS Homeland Security Investigations, the Federal Air Marshals, TSA, the FBI, DOD, HHS, FEMA, and the U.S. Coast Guard. I would also like to recognize and thank Michael Brown, the Chief of UN Security and Safety Services, for his tremendous partnership. As the UN General Assembly ramps up in the days ahead, I want everyone to know that the members of the Secret Service, along with our incredible team, will be hard at work, ensuring the highest level of security for our protectees and the public. An operation of this size will undoubtedly cause disruptions across the city. Please note the frozen zones around the United Nations complex and the surrounding areas. As Commissioner Tisch mentioned, our partners at the Federal Aviation Administration are implementing temporary flight restrictions throughout New York City, including the United Nations and local airports over the next week. These restrictions also prohibit the use of drones. Violators could have their drones confiscated or be charged criminally. The public, however, will see authorized Secret Service and NYPD drones flying in the restricted airspace. There will also be waterway restrictions along the East River adjacent to the United Nations. The U.S. Coast Guard and the NYPD Harbor Patrol will enforce these restrictions. The Secret Service is mindful of the 8 million New Yorkers whose lives do not simply stop because the UN General Assembly is in session. We appreciate your patience over the next week. When it comes to our collective safety, everyone in New York is a force multiplier. If you see something, say something. Do not let it go. Tell a cop or tell any member of the Secret Service. We appreciate you. I would like to introduce Special Agent in charge of the Diplomatic Security Service, Brian Wood. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Good morning, everybody. I am Brian Wood, the Special Agent in charge of the Diplomatic Security Service, New York Field Office. The Diplomatic Security Service is the law enforcement and security bureau of the Department of State. This UN General Assembly is our largest protection mission of the year. During this year's United Nations General Assembly, marking the 80th anniversary of the UN Charter, Diplomatic Security will coordinate with dozens of law enforcement partners to secure this event. Over 600 DS special agents, ATF, U.S. Marshal Service agents, and support personnel will be in New York City to support operations and protect approximately 50 foreign ministers and other dignitaries as they focus on important global issues. We welcome the opportunity to work with our law enforcement partners to provide the highest level of protective security. Through our work, we are helping advance U.S. foreign policy and national security interest both here in New York and around the world. The ultimate goal is to keep America safe and secure while welcoming our own representatives and the world's diplomats. On behalf of the Diplomatic Security Service, I wish to extend my sincere appreciation to the New York Police Department, the United States Secret Service, the United Nations Department of Safety and Security, the U.S. Marshals, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, and Homeland Security Investigations, and all our federal, state, and local law enforcement and emergency first responder partners for their excellent support and collaboration. Our mission, working together, is to ensure the safety and security of all personnel, facilities, and operations. Together, we represent the finest law enforcement, security, and emergency response personnel the United States has to offer. And we will successfully create a safe and secure environment for the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly. At this time, I will now turn over the microphone to Mick Brown, the United Nations Department of Safety and Security Chief.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the headquarters district of the United Nations. My name is Mick Brown, as Brian mentioned, Chief of Security here at headquarters. The UN Security and Safety Service is in advanced stages of preparation and planning for the high-level week of the 80th UN General Assembly, the annual and largest global gathering of heads of state and government. In undertaking these preparations and in executing next week's complex and challenging security operation, we do so in close collaboration with our partners at federal, state and city level, and we are most grateful to these agencies for the critical support provided to the United Nations. I would also like to take this opportunity to express my sincere gratitude to His Honour Mayor Adams for the outstanding support city agencies, and in particular NYPD and FDNY, provide to UN security, not alone during UNGA, UN General Assembly, but also throughout the year. Your Honour, we greatly value your department's collaboration and cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is the NYPD preparing any arrest warrants for heads of state, maybe on behalf of some foreign judicial body?
We welcome individuals here in this city, and we're looking forward for all of them being here. There's several heads of states I'm going to meet with, and I'm looking forward to meeting with the Prime Minister Netanyahu when he arrives in the city as well. He will be welcome like our other dignitaries.
And maybe Mr. Wood, Mr. Brown, or Mr. McCool, could you imagine if the NYPD tried to effect an arrest of a head of state? What would you guys do? What would you do?
Next question, Joe. Hi, Mr. Mayor. How are you doing?
Quite well. How are you?
I was wondering if you could elaborate that on a little bit. How does this work? Like, under your administration, would the NYPD ever act in a way like that without federal partners? And why or why not? Can you explain a little bit the partnership and what would need to happen?
You know, it's extremely significant to know that the United Nations is here for a reason. And there's something called diplomatic immunity. And anyone that understands when you invite so many heads of state here, you want to do it at a level of security. And with a level of understanding, you have a right to come here and voice the positions from your country. And we respect the rule of law here. We don't react in a reckless manner of stating that we were going to arrest a dignitary that's here. There are processes that are in place, and we will respect and we will carry them out accordingly.
This is to Commissioner Tisch. Last week you mentioned a heightened security in terms of the Jewish holidays, UNGA 9/11, and it was an off-topic in the middle of an entirely different murder case in Queens. Was that something usual, or was that something heightened or different?
As I mentioned then, and I'll say again, this time of year it's fairly typical to get a heightened number of threats into the NYPD for New York City. And as I've said multiple times, we have been and we continue certainly over the next few weeks to be operating under a heightened threat, in a heightened threat environment. That said, there are no specific credible threats to the United Nations General Assembly meeting at this time.
Yeah, for either the commissioner or the mayor, how are you advising New Yorkers about, street closings and when, things are going to be closed or shut down either for demonstrations or for movement so that, they're not seeing, there's generally no signage or anything like that, to avoid this street or that street or turn 10 blocks prior.
Yeah. As you know, as a lifelong New York City resident, I am myself as well. UNGA is very difficult for getting around the city in a vehicle, and so we do recommend New Yorkers use mass transit as much as possible, in particular our subway system. As I mentioned, there will be some permanent street closures for the duration of the event, but then there will also be more temporary street closures. Obviously, we have to take security of whoever the protectee is into account before we notify the public of certain closures. So for some to many closures, there will be no notice.
Thank you, everybody. Come on, thank you.
This has been breaking news.
Well, this morning, late night host Jimmy Kimmel off the air with no word on when he might return. The late night show was suspended after Kimmel made comments during his Monday night monologue about the man accused of killing Charlie Kirk. Jared Hill has more on the pause of the late night show.
Jimmy Kimmel seen leaving his studio Wednesday after ABC put Jimmy Kimmel Live on hold indefinitely. Monday, the late-night host made this comment about the man accused of killing conservative activist Charlie Kirk.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
In response, Chairman of the Federal Communications Commission, Brendan Carr, a Trump appointee, said this about broadcast networks while on a conservative podcast.
And they have a license granted by us at the FCC, and that comes with it an obligation to operate in the public interest. These companies can find ways to change conduct, to take action, frankly, on Kimmel, or there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead.
Soon after, local broadcast groups Sinclair and Nexstar announced they'd preempt Kimmel. Then ABC announced it would pull the host indefinitely. On social media, President Trump called the move great news for America. The White House has doubled down on the condemnation of certain commentary on Charlie Kirk.
When you see someone celebrating Charlie's murder, call them out. And hell, call their employer.
Nico Perino is with FIRE, the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression.
When you have a government official coming in and saying that there are certain ideas that cannot be expressed, you start undermining the legal, not to mention the cultural values that undergird this country.
ABC has not explained its decision. Jared Hill, CBS News.
Nexstar's decision to preempt Kimmel's show comes as the company is working to get FCC approval for a merger with another media company, Tegna. The Kimmel Show suspension joins a list of at least a dozen other companies and universities to fire or suspend workers over social media posts ranging from criticism of Kirk to support for his death. A heated hearing on Capitol Hill as the former head of the CDC took questions from a Senate committee. Dr. Susan Menares says she was ousted by Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. just 29 days after her term began. She claims she was terminated because she refused to implement new childhood vaccine requirements.
He directed me to commit in advance to approving every ACIP recommendation, regardless of the scientific evidence. He also directed me to dismiss career officials responsible for vaccine policy without cause. He said if I was unwilling to do both, I should resign.
You let this hepatitis vaccine.
Some senators objected to the CDC's vaccine schedule, especially for children.
So I will stand behind scientific integrity with every decision I ever make.
I think the CDC is the cause of vaccine hesitancy.